We're just a stone's throw here from Liverpool here in the United Kingdom. A place of majesty, a place of a whole heap of a lot of heritage. For those who like their music, you have the Beatles in the back garden. For those of you who like their football, or as it's said here in the United States, soccer, you've got Liverpool and you've got Everton, one of the most fiercest rivalries that you can find on this soil. But this is the track which, for those who understand the touring car feel, this is a staple of a British racetrack. This is Oulton Park, one of the most fantastic places to go out there for a track which has, by every single measure, character beyond the years that it has been in service. Why do we race here today? Well, it's round 11 of your Kamel GT series, here with the global sim racing channel. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone who is watching around the world here. My name's Jake Sperry, Samuel Ryman alongside me for the ride, Joe Peak behind the cameras directing here today, which were wonderfully provided by the legendary Dougie Beard as we bring ourselves close to the end of the season. Sam, to bring you into the conversation, this is a track by all intents and purposes is one that doesn't often get its reps when it comes to iRacing, mainly due to the fact that its grid stalls are really small in comparison to most of the grids we see. But that doesn't take away from just how brilliant of a, I would say, roller coaster ride this track can become.
Yeah, it really is a roller coaster ride, and we'll give you an idea of what it's like trackside here with our GSRC track guide.
Welcome to Oulton Park Circuit. This British track to the southeast of Liverpool is a staple in the UK club racing scene, but has also hosted series as high level as Formula One a few times. At least, with a small asterisk next to those events since they were non-championship rounds. The history and the lore of the venue is as unique as the layout itself. But that layout is more than just the international circuit this place is known for. An incredible 8 different versions can be run, but they all range between 1.5 to 2.5 miles in length. It's not exactly a long lap around here. What it lacks in that realm, it more than makes up for in bumps and hills. On top of that, Oulton Park offers some very fast corners, so you certainly won't get bored. Turns like Island Bend, Knickerbrook, and Druids can be utterly fearsome depending on which chicanes are at it. But even the slower corners often involve blind crests or kinked entries, making passing a very difficult prospect. In modern day, the place is mainly visited by touring cars, GT cars, motorcycles, and Formula 3. But here on iRacing, it's quite popular with the vintage community. Needless to say, this is a track that carries on the British tradition of fast, old-school style circuits that challenge and thrill drivers. It'll no doubt be a blast for both our competitors and fans today.
That's just one element of why this place can be such an amazing battleground here at Oulton Park. But let's have a little bit of a discussion here about some of those difficulties that you see out on circuit, but on top of that as well, how they relate to the championship as things are moving forward. There are so many different elements out there that can pretty much make or break a racing series like this. And if we talk about championship standings up at the very top, when you've got 2 classes, you talk about the class that's the fastest first here, Sam, and that, of course, is your Nissan GTP, such a ferocious vehicle.
Yes, it is, Jake, although I apologise, I'm having a bit of technical difficulties right now, so I'll let you take it over here, but things are getting a little bit spread out in the GTP standings.
Yeah, I would certainly agree in that regard. For the GTPs, Nicholas Schneider has the control of the field in that respect, that being 189 points, 5 wins over the course of the season so far, and has been thoroughly unstoppable, it has seemed, over the course of the championship. 2 drop rounds, of course, are available, which means that it is Laust Olsen who finds himself in second. Fabian Jungbluth, a fan favourite in third, 1 race win this season, along with Martin Krejcierik in fourth, and Joseph Mudrak with 1 less start compared to everyone around in terms of rivals in position number 5. 95 points so far this season in the battles. When it's come, of course, to the GTOs as well, the Audi 90s, such a staple of this late 80s, early 90s style of racing, it's a lot closer than it was before. Philip Lake in control of that championship on 192, 6 wins. So a more successful driver in terms of picking up the results. But it's been a little bit close with Yuko Leskala then on 3 wins so far, 31 points back on 161, and then a further 30 points back to Hervé Trengarade, who is there on 131 points. Not to be outdone is Nicholas Mukanos, whose consistency puts him fourth on 126 points, and then Jamie Hamill-Smith on 120 rounds out the top 5 in that category. We're talking about today here as we are just in the starting stages of qualifying here in this at the moment. 8 minutes, 2 laps to get going here, Sam. It's worth keeping an eye out on the track layout today, which will be the international layout without the Britain chicane. What does that mean? It means a high, fast-paced right at the end of the long back straight into Knickerbrook.
Yeah, I really like this layout. There is one fiddly bit, though, of course, and that is the Britain chicane that comes at you shortly out of the hairpin, and that will lower the speeds a little bit down that long back straight, but the drivers will definitely need to be lifting off into Knickerbrook, which is a high-speed right-hander that goes up a hill, and a bit... because, you know, these are older cars. They do have a little bit of ancient technology on them compared with modern day cars that may be able to take a Knickerbrook flat out. But yeah, a lot of elevation change around this circuit, and qualifying underway right now, about halfway done, and we're starting to get some lap times in.
We certainly are. Laust Olsen to the point at the moment, 1:13.5, a full 1.6 seconds quicker at the moment than anybody else out there on circuit, which tells you all you need to know about how that category is shaping up. Gianluca Gabbiani in second and Alexander Darman then in third position. Looking very interesting in terms of GTOs as well. That's Philip Lake, who's currently in control of that. But get the gap here at the moment, Sam. 0.8 of a second over Reed Miller. It seems like the drivers who came to play for this one today, they have got this track dialed down to a T.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a tricky circuit out here. It's a short one around, but there's lots of challenges. I talked to even, you know, the Knickerbrook corner, a corner that could be done almost flat out in most modern day cars. These drivers have to lift. They have to attack it a certain way, and that's where we see Reed Miller approaching right now, is that high-speed right-hander. He's got a couple of turns left to go to the finish line. The other thing, of course, is that these drivers only have 2 timed laps of qualifying that they can use in this 8-minute qualifying session. And the other thing I've always found about this Oulton Park circuit on iRacing, Drake, is this is a really... for lack of a better term, anal circuit when it comes to track limits. If you put your tyres even the slightest bit over the white lines here, iRacing does not count your lap.
And let's just keep this into perspective. You have 17 instant points before a drive-through penalty. Now, in seasons gone by, it used to be that 17 points was the hard knock limit, but iRacing have been a bit more lenient over the years. They now make that a drive-through penalty, and disqualification comes at 25 instant points as we look at Ian Haycox around this place. Track temperature here is 27 degrees as Haycox goes around there. Big slide in the number 11, making up for a few troubles as Alex Millward here is in second position. Overall, just a couple of tenths of a second, a quarter of a second up the rise then through towards that start-finish line. And 13.2, just good enough for pole position. 6 thousandths of a second only, the finest of margin that Aidan Millward could muster ahead at this point. Wayne Marshall off in the grass there we see at this point in time. But we also need to talk about this is going to be a relatively, I would say, perfect condition for drivers to race today. And we talk traffic as well because this is multi-class here, Sam. This is a narrow circuit. It's going to be tough to get around traffic today.
Yeah, not only that, but it's also a very short circuit as well. So they're going to have to get around the GTO traffic quite often. It's going to be a 40-minute race here today. This is the, as we approach the closing moments of the championship. We're approaching the closing moments of qualifying right now. Here's Lescala. Boy, did I feel bad for him last time out at Bathurst. Was up there racing for the win, made a mistake exiting the final turn and had a massive incident in the wall that absolutely ruined his races and also hurt him in the championship fight, and he'll be looking to bounce back today. There you go, he's got the number 1 on his car. Remember, this is an official series race on iRacing, so that means he has a higher I rating than any of the other 36 competitors, 37 competitors in total here, Jake. That is a massive field. That's going to make traffic even more of a headache.
Very fortunate, some would say, that the field did not split into 2 groups of 18 here, with how very difficult it is sometimes to populate. You can see this aggressive charge in towards the right-hand corner that comes along. That was Knickerbrook, and then you come up the clay hill, past the water tower, which will be coming up through this next left-hander, and then you've got the Druids corner, this big right, very different to the Brands Hatch Druids, which is a hairpin. That's a 90-degree right-hander as you take that very, very important charge on this final straight, which leads to that brilliant final section of track. Lodge and then the Dearly down and up the hill. So easy to spin the car, especially in that Audi 90 GTO, and with 20 seconds on the clock, Lescala comes across the line and goes 4th fastest in the group. Had to get the banker lap in, a 28 flat, only 0.6 of a second off of the pace. But that is pretty much everybody then all done and dusted when it has come to qualifying. We can take ourselves over in the next couple of moments towards the starting grid and how everything is going to feature off here today around this Oulton Park circuit at the penultimate round of this Kamel GT Championship. We will start, of course, with the drivers who qualified themselves up near the very, very front, that needing to be GTP overall, and that is with the front row. So there is a little wait that we will have before we get ourselves into position. Alex Millward in control, 0.006 of the time difference then over Laust Olsen, the top 2, absolutely in a class of their own, with Javier Mosquera in 3rd and Fabian Jungbluth there in 4th position. It's Gianluca Gabbiani who starts 5th, with Jiri Wikström there in 6th position, Joseph Mudrak in 7th, and Douglas Cloud in position number 8. Alexander Darman starts this one from 9th, with Mark Gamak there rounding out the top 10. And as we scroll on down then in that category, Robert Plumley, Kinducci racing himself in 11th, with Nicholas Rage in 12th position. Torsten Ulreich and Wayne Marshall make 13th and 14th. Sam going through with GTOs.
Yeah, and Phil Lake will be starting on pole position in the GTOs ahead of Ove Chandre and Nicholas Mukanos, because he only had that one banker lap. Lescala can do no better than 4th on the grid ahead of Reed Miller and Devin Donaghy. Ian Haycox and Andre Schumacher behind, ahead of Martiolo and Francois Scurry, Jamie Hamal Smith and Fabio Sol lined up back there ahead of Mika Tupola, Angel Pina, and then the last 2 drivers to set a time in the GTO field are Axel Buda Herrerius and Nathan Brummer. There are 4 drivers that didn't set a time, and I know for sure that Ben Laughter is one of those who was attempting to set a time but was unable to do so because he had an incident on both of his laps. So he's going to have his work cut out for him, as well as other drivers starting back there. Pace cars rolling off, and this is actually a very short run to the green flag, so not a lot of time to warm up his tyres, Jake.
No, I absolutely agree. The likes of Togo Hisado will be another one who'll be going through. Has the number 6 on his machine from Club Japan, which will be a very early time in the morning, I would say, to go out there and racing for Hisada. So we'll definitely have a lot of work. Another drive to keep an eye out on, Hideki Koivisto in the GTOs. Will certainly be looking to also try and make progress through the field. One thing is, if you don't set a lap time, you are pretty much towards the back of the pack, and that is going to be a whole heap of troubles, and it's the back of your general pack, so there won't be GTPs running through GTOs. A nice gapping being given. The iRacing Porsche first safety car will dive down into the pits. The green flag means that we are underway, and Alex Millward taking a very aggressive line off of the start, trying to get as flat of a run as possible here to Old Hall Corner, turn number 1 out on circuit. We are green and we are racing both classes off and away, and we take that run down the avenue to the Cascades for the very first time.
And over in GTO, Lascella has got right down to it. He started in 4th place, has already moved his way up into 2nd place behind his championship rival Philip Blake. So not the qualifying that Lascella would have liked, but there he is, right where he needs to be.
Absolutely, and an early start and a quick start is what's needed. Tyres on the grass there, going through that flick right. Someone's off in the gravel there in the grass. It's going to be in so much trouble trying to gather it back up together again. It's Martiola who is in that element of trouble. The number 20 somehow manages to gather it up through the on-camber banked right-hander there at the hairpin. Worth noting as well here, Sam, today, one split field, which means we have a massive range of iRatings and levels of abilities to drive.
Yeah, and I'm glad that the GTPs have gotten off to a clean start because the GTO field didn't leave them a huge gap, and if anything happened to these GTP guys, they'd be right on the scene.
Or Mukanos has a slowdown penalty that I've just seen the number 8 car out there potentially on circuit who's gone a little bit further down the order, but a great start then at the front. Laust Olsen then in P2 we focus on right now, chasing down Aidan Millward. Fabian Jungbluth with a good start has got ahead of Javier Mosquera there in the bright pink machine in 4th place. So Jungbluth making good progress off of the get-go as they look to challenge through. It's going to be a tough track to get close and behind other drivers. They've used a layout which allows that opportunity to break away, but this is going to be about patience over 40 minutes. If you're going to find an overtake, you're going to have to wait for mistakes.
Yeah, and Wayne Marshall made one of those mistakes. He's already out of a race, an incident for him and his GTP machine on the opening lap. Andre Schumacher is a GTO driver who started up towards the front. He's lost a couple of positions on the opening lap because he ran off at Knickerbrook last lap, I believe, and that cost him a few spots, but still on track, still in the race. There's a crash going on in the hairpin.
Yeah, Reed Miller and is going to be in the wall. We were focusing on 3rd place at that time. There is Reed Miller, the number 4 machine, then in the wall at the hairpin. So very easily it can go wrong here at Oulton Park. Let's take ourselves to a global SimRacing channel replay, see exactly how this came about. And this is what happens when you have a track which is very, very tough to overtake at. You need to be aggressive and you need to make the point. You can see driver behind gets aggressive, makes the point, but just makes the contact, and the 4 machine finds all sorts of trouble hitting the tyres.
Yeah, and that was Scurry who made that move down the inside. Franco Scurry, the number 24 car, so he might be carrying a little bit of damage, and also won't be getting a Christmas card from the 4 this December.
That very much does look like it can be the case. If you're not going to get a Christmas card, well, it's a little bit cleaner than that, buddy. But we're here in some amazing racing, and time already is going to be of the essence because 1/8 of the race has already been put in the books. There's your leading 3 in GTO at this point in time. Hervé Trengarade in 3rd, Yuko Leskala in 2nd, and Philip Blake just quietly making it happen, and there's been a spin.
Yeah, Wickstrom, the number 25 GTP, he was up there 6th in class. I think he's dropped to the back of the class here, Drake.
Yeah. That is just coming out of that Britain chicane. It's not one that we normally talk about, but talk about one of those drivers having trouble. You can see Wikström here just losing the back end on power. Now watch this. Look at this for avoidance there. Maybe the slightest bit of contact, but somehow avoiding tyres there. One of the GTPs, I think it may have been Alexander Darman there, who somehow got away with that.
We'll take a ride on board here. Yeah, we mentioned this chicane earlier. It's definitely tricky coming up over the crest here. Oh, just not sure where the car was going to go. A marvellous job to keep off the tyre barrier. Loses a position, but could have lost a lot more.
It could have been the race, and that's the big difference maker then. It can go so easily wrong if you are not too careful. There is Alexander Darman. Seems unfazed. He's back out there into the grind, into the rhythm, and just making sure this race plays out as a factor. Starts to get the first little bit of lapped traffic in the range at the moment. Nathan Broomer at this stage is going to be that driver that everyone is trying to get around at this point in time, and this is just an example of how quickly they fly by, because it's all about downforce in the GTPs. Big check-up from Mark Gamak. Robert Plumley all over the back, and here comes Rage going to the outside the clay hill. Oh, surely this is a disaster. Look at Rage go!
Oh, I don't know how this hasn't ended in a disaster yet. A couple of GTO cars now, but you had about 5 or 6 GTPs all bunched up together there. And I mean, I'm sure there's going to be drivers who are a little more courteous than others about letting the GTPs by as the race goes on. But the fact of the matter is, there's just no real good places for these GTOs to let these guys by.
I certainly agree, as Plumley side by side with Mark Gamak trying to get back into position, but Plumley, the Kenduchi racing driver, doing exactly what is needed at this point in time, just covering off the move, driving his own race at the moment and making sure that it is all A-OK as things stand at the moment. So some very nice battles. They head through the left. You've got the lake on the left-hand side. Now on the right-hand side, you can see there as they go into the island hairpin, and they manage to negotiate their battles nicely and neatly at this point in time. Up, though, we go to your GTO leaders right now. It seems like Trengarade's being dropped at the moment, Sam. Lake and Leskala are trying to make this an easy race where it is 1 versus 1.
Yeah, and these are the number 2, 1, and 3 cars in the sim, running in that order, so very high I ratings being represented here. And I'm wondering if drivers in position 2 or 3 are just biding their time right now, but I'm not sure if that's a smart thing to do, because eventually the GTP leaders are going to catch him, and maybe that could be Philip Blake's chance to break away if he could kind of get a GTP car in between him and Leskala.
Yeah, that definitely could be the case, and that'll be happening in the next lap or two by the looks of things. They go through the Britain chicane. You've got to avoid those tyre bundles. They do not move here in iRacing, and you can see just how much the bunching up process has happened. You've got Oulton, Youngbluth there. You've got Mosquera in the mix. Gabbiani is going to try and get into that as well. So you've got 4 really trying to find that space to make those moves around and not lose contact with the car in front, because Alex Millward has had that ability to just go out there, pick and choose when he can go and make those passes and overtakes, and it's really happening. We've got side by side now as the traffic comes up with Hideki Koivisto and Fabio Sal, Ben Laughter as well. This is really awkward for these GTPs on the first run through the traffic.
Yeah, Ben Laughter leading this little pack of GTO cars here. Remember, he ran off on both of his qualifying attempts, had to start much further back in the field than he's used to. He's made up many positions, but right now he's got to get out the way a little bit, let these GTP cars by. Very clean racing by these drivers so far, but I don't know if it'll last forever, especially when we have a single split of 37 machines.
Well, it has been very well behaved, and you have to give the credit there. The gap lost over that last lap for one Lars Olsen for Alex Millward. Get this, traffic has costed 1.7 seconds, Sam.
Yeah, the nice thing for Millward is he does have a little bit of a buffer still over Olsen of a couple of seconds, then Olsen's going to have to deal with all this too, of course.
And as we know, as quickly as you gain that time, you lose it again when it comes to traffic, as Philip Lake, oh sorry, no, that's Devin Donaghy there in 4th position. Great drive at the moment here by Devin at this point in time. He's dictating when the traffic gets that chance to go by, when the leaders move through. It's not what you would call a traditional system where blue flags, you must move out of the way. Here in iRacing, it is a system which is advisory, not mandatory. So it's blue flags, be warned, there are cars trying to pass you.
All right, so Alex Millward has cleared his way around the thick of the GTO field, but still hasn't worked his way up to the GTO leaders, as we're watching the rest of the GTP front runners try and navigate their way through the GTO midfield. It's still Philip Lake leading Yuko Leskala and Ove Trantrade up there, and we're going to see more and more of this for the next 30 minutes, because we're only at a quarter distance, and that was a calm quarter of this race where the GTPs didn't have to worry about lap traffic.
Yeah, and we're seeing here battles into battles. Gabbiani, oh, there goes Donaghy, straight off and into the tyres. He's going to be joined as well. Ian Haycox is off the road as well, down there at the avenue into the Cascades. Douglas Cloud caught the back of Ian Haycox, but that was all on your own from Devin Donaghy.
And that's a massive shame for both of those drivers, because they were running in 4th and 6th positions. Devin Donaghy was in 4th, Ian Haycox was in 6th, so it's going to move Nicholas Mukonos up into that 4th position now. Oh, yeah, he got his rear wheel on the grass, and that was contact there. That was contact that put Haycox off, and obviously that bump there in the tyre barrier is going to warp his rear wing, but I think he got away a little bit better.
It's very much like driving a brick sometimes, those GTOs. It's very easy to get yourself back going again after a little bit of a hit as through they go. There is the number 11 machine looking to get back out and going again. Ian Haycock's after the tap from Douglas Cloud, the first bit of intra-make or intra-class contact that we have really seen in this race. And all of these drivers will be keeping an eye out and making sure that they are in the mirrors because they do jump up so fast. And the fact that they are through the entirety of the field, look at this. There's also been an issue for Ulrich out there on circuit, but as they go through, look how aggressive that these GTPs have to be. That is Mudrak, Gabbiani and Javier Mosquera in the all-pink machine going through. Always going to be difficult. Now, there has been an issue there for one of those drivers there going through at the deal. Oh, we just cut away at the wrong time. Someone's just clapped to the curb at exactly the wrong moment. So we'll take a look here at the number 10 machine falling into a bit of trouble. This is what we talk about being difficult around this circuit. So easy to put the power down too early, and that's why Lodge Corner's so difficult there, Sam, because the track falls away.
Yes, a final turn of a race, of course, at that Lodge Corner, and like I say, it falls away, and there have been many races that have come down to, as we got the GTP off again, many races that come down to the finish line, and I see another spinner coming out in Knickerbrook.
Yeah, it's as easy as...
and hard into the wall goes Nicholas Rage. He wasn't the one I saw, but he just slammed into the wall and he's out.
Oh, it seems like it's all starting to kick off. The temper's flaring at Oulton Park. Here's what happened to the 28 of Rage into the Britain chicane. And that is a case of coming out of the exit, up and over the hill. And then it will be back down into Knickerbrook where the troubles will lie. Going through the right, takes it really aggressively, and it's almost a case that he just got himself unsettled on entry. The 29 car was already there in trouble. That was Axel Boada Herrerius, who was in all sorts of trouble there. So this is right in front of Mosquera, so keep this in mind, already has damage. Mosquera breezes on through, but going through, just scares himself there into the grass.
Yeah, and then I have a feeling the incident we saw after that may have been distracted by what was going on in front of him. Robert Plumley is out of a race, I'm getting word. Andre Schumacher also. So there have been a few drivers, particularly ones running a little bit further towards the back of a pack who are falling by the wayside. By the way, I know we got a nice battle on screen here, but the GTO leaders are also nose to tail right now. Philip Blake and Duco Lascala.
Yeah, and there is the battle for the race lead that we see right now on screen here. Those two, Lake and Lescala, trying to fight incredibly hard together out there to make sure that they are running their race. Traffic is playing a little bit of a role, but because they are determining where they need to be in this battle, they are not losing that much time. Lescala let the position go. The gap opens up ever so slightly as they head into that final corner, of course, and through the D Elite. And Lescala just keeping it within a range. And that's all you need to do in a race like this, because so easily at Oulton Park, circumstances change.
Yeah, and so going back to that GTO battle that we had on screen before we had
off.
This one, yeah.
So Javier Mosquera, sorry to cut you off like that, there has been contact from Gianluca Gabbiani and Javier Mosquera. This is coming through the island corner where it all goes wrong. You can see Mosquera has himself about a 3-car length lead there coming into this section. Gabbiani just so much better, it seems, through that banked right hand, a little bit of an oversteer moment, and they can see just contact on the back, and it's so easy to ramp. It's like watching this one go incredibly awry for Mosquera. Fortunately enough, no damage, able to keep going at the cost of 2 places.
And this segues into what I was about to talk about nicely, because the driver who went off at the hairpin after contact at the start of a race was Reed Miller, and the GTO battle we had on screen just a few moments ago, Reed Miller's been right in the thick of that. He's been doing a nice job of working his way back up through the field in that beat-up number 4 machine.
Yeah, we've also had a moment for Thorsten Ulreich, who is now out of the race. He's had an issue coming up the Clay Hill, so that's his retirement done, but we focus on GTOs.
Yeah, Miller's off, just ran off course there, Drake. He's lost a bunch of time to this battle.
Yeah, and just like that, there goes an overtake. Look at this, it's an up and under attempt coming along. The Hello Kitty car trying to find its way by and is not going to be able to get that pass sorted just yet. This is a great battle between Frankos Scuri and Fabio Sal.
working their way down towards Lodge Corner, the final corner. As we mentioned, it's easy to get on the gas pedal a little bit too optimistically here and go off stage right, but these two keep it under control, but things do spread out as they go across the front straight. You can see more GTP traffic in the background that they'll have to worry about.
Absolutely right, and that GTP traffic is the race leader, Alex Millward, making his second rounds around this one. He's got a lead of 6 seconds at this point in time over his competition at this moment. Goes straight to the inside, makes a lot of progress through, and is going to breeze on through using the straight to his advantage there, and the gap absolutely fantastically being worked at this point in time. But this is one of the things, you build a gap in this sort of series, you have to manage it. It's not a case of it being an easy race, Sam, to go and get yourself through. It takes one bit of traffic misbehaving to lose 2, sometimes even 3 seconds on a lap.
Yeah, seconds are also, of course, fenders. I think we've already had about 10 cars fall by the wayside in this race. Now, that doesn't mean we've seen the last of them. With this much attrition, you would have to expect that some cars who go into the pits may end up getting some repairs done and coming back out there, as we're not even halfway yet. But the leaders are trying to make sure they're not on that list and still having to work their way patiently by the GTO cars, as we watch the number 16 of Laust Olsen running in second place. And he's got to be a bit careful because there's Fabian Jungbluth not too far behind him.
Oh, absolutely, and Fabian has been doing a wonderful job. The Club Diatch driver has been keeping it nice and steady in towards turn 1. Has to take a compromised line here, does Fabian Jungbluth through there, because he had to deal with the traffic of Franco Scuri there at turn number 1, down through the cascade and onto this next section. It is very difficult. You have to stay within the same car cycle as the one in front of you, or you're definitely going to lose time. And it looks like there is trouble on the horizon for Laust Olsen, who did not get everything working from Ian Haycox, who, remember, has been tagged already by GTPs.
So we come up to this chicane, and behind GTO traffic, these guys are really going to have to slow down. Now, obviously, they have a nice straight here up to Knickerbook, where they should both be able to blast by that GTO car nicely. Thank you very much. Again, even in these prototype machines, they're a bit ancient technology-wise, so they've got the lift to go through Knickerbook. The GTO car stays to the track left, getting our wheels on the grass there. That could end in disaster. And now we've made it back towards the final part of a lap.
It also shows just how quickly you go around this place. That mock-up Toyota Minolta livery there on the car for Fabian Jungbluth will be definitely trying to chase down Laust Olsen as quickly as possible, but they have just seen that gap explode out. That's Gianluca Gabbiani, though, who has gone around it. It looks like it might have been contact with Ben Laughter through that section. And that's how quickly it can go wrong, because let's not forget, we know the GTPs are quicker than GTOs when it comes to a straight line and through high-speed corners. Braking for low-speed corners, the GTO can hold its own side by side, and that's why a little bit of a tap on the inside, and effectively, round you go. Gabbiani couldn't keep it in a straight line.
Yeah, I'm going to put that one on Gabbiani. He was kind of trying to come back across to the racing line, and Laughter was still there. Nice race going for Ben Laughter still. He's made it up to 5th place after being unable to turn a competitive lap time during qualifying. Here are our GTO leaders, still nose to tail, with Ove Trandre not too far behind.
Not too far, just about a couple seconds the margin back, but at least for the moment, Yuko Leskala is just being calm and being patient here in this race. He's spent the entire first 20 minutes just staring at the back of Philip Lake, getting a lay of the land for how Philip Lake looks to attack a circuit like this. Here comes Alex Millward, your GTP race leader. Should breeze on by both of them. Has to compromise a little bit there, the run going forward of Philip Lake. So Lake's going to be in a little bit of trouble. They do have same class traffic to deal with. That's Angel Pina there, who they will have to try and get through, and that is one just about making it through. Leskala will follow, making it 2. So that's the chance maybe that was there, just falling away for car number 1, trying to desperately get by car number 2.
Yeah, nice job by Pina there, trying to stay out of trouble. Also has to let Ove Trendre by now, but we continue to watch this battle for first and second, and rightfully so, because they're right on top of each other. Pina actually running 26th position overall out of 37 starters, so that shows you that just finishing this race is half of a challenge.
Half of the challenge is to finish, and well, to finish first you must finish. It's easier, of course, to finish first from Juuso Leskala because he is from Finland, after all, which means his nationality is Finnish. So he's got that opportunity in the back pocket, so it's a little bit easier for him to finish. Still, though, he is right up underneath. He's trying to get himself into play, and ultimately, he will again just play the waiting card. He doesn't have to make the move right now. He can be patient. He can see that opportunity coming along on the horizon. All he's got to do is be there when the last lap comes along. Here comes P2 though to get the lap, and soon P3 as well.
Oh, a leader almost pulled across into Lars Olsen there, but Lars Olsen did a nice job of being able to clear those GTO drivers, while Fabian Jungbluth has been stuck behind. And Joseph Mudrak, yeah, also right in on this now. So Jungbluth definitely did not catch the GTO leaders at the best time.
And yeah, just hearing every single place. It's on the outside. This is the chance, but the outside's the tough way to make the move. You've not got much to work with on that corner. Juuso Leskala showing the first sign of an attack to Philip Lake. Just like that, the moment comes along. Global SimRacing channel replay then for you. This is how quickly you can go from attacking to defending. You go through that left using the GTP on the outside, and that is an aggressive move to the outside. If you're going to do it here at Oulton Park, you've got to be unorthodox, and it very nearly paid off.
Well, Leskala, I would be impressed, but I actually pulled that off successfully in the Formula 3 car once here on iRacing, so nah, he's still a heck of a better driver than I am. Yeah, he's still biding his time. We're only halfway through the race, but it definitely shows that he wants to lead, and what would you expect? He's racing for a championship, he's racing in second position, but at the same time, he knows there's still a little ways to go, and maybe there'll be other opportunities.
There will be, and we've got 17 minutes and 40 seconds to figure out how that battle at the front of the field is to be figured out. There have been a couple of changes of positions up and down the order as we see Mosquera go by. Togo Hosada is walking very wounded right now, has just lost the place to Jiri Wikström there, which means that he is now bottom of the drivers running around at the moment. Togo Hosada now in 10th position here in this race, so still a little bit of work to be done to try and get that back, but I think the task of finishing at this stage, Sam, is probably the goal in the mind of Hosada.
Yeah, and things calming down here temporarily. Again, a nice little straight here coming out of Cascades for these GTP drivers to get some passes complete. You can see a lot of cars out on track here are beaten and battered, but still going around. Obviously, because it's such a twisty circuit, it's not the most aerodynamically dependent track.
Well, I would say that the virtual scrap heaps around Liverpool have never seen so much money go through their coffers around this place at this point in time. But still, though, it's all about patience, and this is the track where patience prevails overall. So we'll see how that will all play in. As you can see, the number 11 car on your screen right now, Ian Haycox, isn't necessarily out of the woods, because that is a battle for position. That's Hideki Koivisto just behind in the number 17 machine, and will definitely be trying to find a way through. And for class, it's going to be important because this is the 7th position overall.
Yeah, and this, I mean, the GTO field, I got to do a little bit of mathematics here and counting, but I'm pretty sure took up over half of our starting grid. So, you know, to be running up there 7th place in GTO is definitely a good day at the races. But again, there's still quite a ways left to go. Over 15 minutes left on the clock. The battle for the GTO lead has heated up here. Philip Lake did not get through the chicane very well, but I think Leskala isn't going to... Well, there he goes. He's going to try.
Well, he's on the outside, and this is going to be difficult. Couldn't get the drive off the exit there. The back stepping out through Knickerbrook, getting caught out potentially on the marbles there that iRacing simulates here as part of their dynamic track system. And just like that, another little showcase. Chance to go to the inside, not yet available, but now's going to follow the GTP of Mark Gamak. Down the inside goes Leskala, searching for the race lead outright, and ultimately down the hill, he's finally procured it. 15 minutes on the dot, Leskala leads.
Nice pass, and I'm sure Philip Blake would have liked to have kept that lead, but he wasn't going to do anything too risky here. He knows he still has a championship advantage as they go by another GTO car a little bit off the pace. I'm not going to say Philip Blake wants to finish second, but it's definitely not going to be the end of the world for him in the championship if he's able to stay running there. And again, they've also got to keep half an eye out for Over Trentray because he's only 2 seconds back.
It's the old adage, is it? Do you drive like Ayrton Senna for the race win, or do you drive like Alain Prost, driving for as many points as you can get without risking the car? That is always the driver's instinct out there versus the driver using the mechanical mind, some would say, in terms of their racing action overall. So the leading battle, something that we definitely want to keep a focus on, because Lake is not going to give this one up without a fight. Leskala has been very even on pace with Lake, and now what we can see for the first time is how does Philip Lake decide to attack around this lakeside course here at Oulton Park.
I think he lost a little bit of time going through Druids there. By the way, the number 4 of Reed Miller has came into the pits. We saw him getting involved in an incident at the start. He was working his way back up through the field. I'm seeing a bit more damage on his car than I did the last time I saw it, so I think he might have got caught up in something. Lake runs Leskala down, sticks his nose up just to let him know he's there, but not going to make a move yet.
There's another really interesting GTO battle that's just about to go side by side. It's Fabio Saal and Marty Ola who are trying to figure it out, and Mosquera is in the wrong position for it right now. Saal, in the end, will hold on for the moment against Marty Ola, but this is just how it's so difficult to battle in GTO, because the moment you want to make a move, oh look, there's a GTP, but here we go, at Druid's contact, and both are going to go off. Saal and Ola both find the wall. It's Christmas for Carlos Fonseca.
Now here we go, he's able to get going again, but probably got a little bit of damage on the machine. So there we go, they go through Knickerbrook, and no issue here, running one behind the other, but obviously they've got the GTP traffic to worry about coming over the crest. All this is a little bit blind, by the way, because of the elevation change. Now you come, and he got a piece of the grass, that's what happened. Oh, and actually both cars went off.
Both cars found trouble. Of course, grabbing the grass, you're not going to be able to have the brakes. I don't think he was making the corner anyway. So that really a heavy, heavy accident out there overall. Back, though, to 1 and 2 by iRacing in this field. Yuko Leskala leading this one at the moment in time. Philip Lake quietly being patient in second position as they now make the run here towards the right of turn number 1, the Old Hall corner. It's partly cloudy conditions, so the track is going to get hotter and colder dependent on those conditions as they descend down the hill through the Cascades, and 2 very different lines being taken. Leskala has changed his driving style there, Sam, to get as much as he can off of the exits of every corner.
Oh, and there we go, having to back off for the GTP traffic. We're also keeping half an eye on the battle for second for the in the GTP class. I mean, we might want to go there now, because I'm not sure Philip Lake is exactly in the position to overtake. He's close, but he's not exactly looking right now.
Yeah, all of the traffic is bringing itself back in again. Olsen's last lap was a 1:18.7, which was a full 1.5 seconds slower than Fabian Youngbluth, and then another 0.2 slower than Joseph Mudrak there in 4th place. This is not over by any stretch of the imagination. They all know that they are going to be patient and they are going to wait for that chance. We haven't seen GTP overtakes too much here in this race. They go through the fast right-hander of Knickerbrook corner. And for those who wonder why Knickerbrook is called Knickerbrook, yes, they did find knickers in that brook.
I never knew that.
Well, the more you know.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I don't have much else to say to that point. 10 minutes left on the clock. There we go. There's my contribution.
There we go, indeed. So Lars Olsen, second position, holding off quite nicely. Fabian Youngbluth there in third. Joseph Mudrak there in 4th position. at this moment in time, but it is a patience play, about 0.7 of a second between them, and Lotus Oulton knows time is of the essence. Some clean track, you've got to work with it. That is fastest lap of the race so far.
And so now we're entering the closing stages of a race. Obviously, the win in GTP has pretty much been signed, sealed and delivered, but second through third in class could all still change here with Oulton, Dune Blue from Mudrack. Third through third is still fair game in GTO as well with Lascella, Lake and Trangeray. Trangeray hasn't exactly been in a position to attack all race long, but he's there if anything breaks out up front.
Yes, and that is the key. It is a case of if things go into Troubles-town as they put Ove Trengerade a third lap down in this race, they've got to be aggressive, very aggressive line by Joseph Mudrack, who knows he's got to get there, and they've got some issues here because there's also same class traffic to get by. Nicholas Rage is one of them, Togo Hasada is the other, and as they go through, this is getting what we like to call dicey here at GSRC, because they have to go through traffic and effectively be as clinical as they can. Crucially for Lotus Oulton, he gets a gap. Wide goes Lascella off of the exit there, so he's going to lose a little bit of time down the cascade. There's contact round there, going from fourth position. Joseph Mudrack and Philip Lake have come together. Somehow Mudrack has 360 without a scope and still has himself on track.
Well, brilliant recovery there. I was surprised that Philip Lake was able to keep going. How Mudrack kept going is beyond me.
That is just a case of how on earth do you keep that car pointed in a straight line. You can see it's going to get very dicey. Philip Lake is a little bit better on the brakes in the GTO. There's the contact through the corner, and look at that, the grip coming back in from the GTP.
Lascella's off. Lascella is off from the lead at the chicane. I think he's done this all on his own, and so Philip Lake, after booting another car up into the air, has taken the lead.
He absolutely has, and that's just grabbing the curb too much. Lascella struggling with that turning circle. The Audi GTO had to do a 3-point turn to get it back sorted again. This is what we were talking about. Mistakes happen late in races. He just grabbed there the tyre bundle going through that, pushed the car around, and just like that, the race is over for Lascella, who looked for all intents and purposes like the coolest head in the race. Unfortunately, Philip Lake, after his moment that he had earlier on in the lap, he's now got himself a bit of a gap, a couple seconds to Ove Trengerade, the Norwegian.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's Lascella's hope right now, as he's just turned into the biggest Ove Trengerade fan in the world. But all that being said, that, you know, at this critical time of a season for the championship, that's the second race we've seen Lascella throw away a good result. I mean, I know third is still a good result, but it's not a win.
They only have 2 drop rounds in their championship, so you figure that out. 2 races in a row, it's gone wrong. You've got nothing left in the back pocket. Someone who has a lot in the back pocket, Aidan Millward, that gap 11.5 seconds, 12 seconds on screen right now. He has been absolutely fantastic here in this race and has been the consummate professional throughout. Now, Sam, for those who are maybe looking at sim racing for the first time, finding themselves in a position of wanting to learn how to race multi-class, would you say that Alex Millward would be the perfect example of how to race from the front?
Well, yeah, he's done a great job, but he's also been allowed to do a great job by the fact that he's been able to build up a lead over the rest of his competitors. And when you're able to build up that lead, it kind of takes the pressure of having to make a move, in a hurry. And so he can time his passes a little bit better and keep himself out of trouble. So, you know, it's a win-win all around for him once he builds up that lead. By the way, a couple of drivers who haven't been as lucky are Giancula Gabbiani and Douglas Cloud. I'm seeing their GTP cars sitting in the pits with a lot of damage, and they were running up there in the middle of the field quite competitively a few moments ago. So unfortunate to see them out of this race.
Yeah, it really is an unfortunate. There is your battle. It's now down to 1.3 seconds. Trengerade has got the phasers on as he looks to try and chase this gap down.
We got trouble. Devin Donaghy's in it, and the GTP in the wall. There it is.
And that's second position. That's Lotus Oulton in trouble there. So it's coming up the clay hill where all of the trouble has happened, and you worried about an incident like that as they go through. This is just pure miscommunication between the two drivers, and you can't blame either for it as they go through. Now watch here as they go through. You're going to see where are you going to go. The natural line taking the middle of the road, and it's just grabbing the curb, getting all of that traction down on those very, very heavy right tyres. The torque essentially throws Laust Oulton out of the podium race.
Yeah, and they almost got away with it because they recognised what side of the circuit they were both aiming towards as they came to the crest. The problem was that as that happened, Oulton got a little bit too much on the grass and then lost control of the car. But yeah, no, that's just really unfortunate there. And like you say, when it comes to when it does come to multi-class racing on iRacing, obviously you do want to be able to communicate, whether that's with headlights or with shortcut keys. You can push a number on your keyboard and it can say pass left, pass right, or of course you can just hotkey your microphone up and talk. And I think when you're racing multi-class a track as tricky as this one, you want to be trying to do as much communicating as you can.
I certainly agree there, and we've seen just how difficult it has been to communicate and get all the results. It now puts Fabian Youngbluth up into second. Into the wall goes Haycox. There, that's Ian Haycox going around the number 11 car, and that will mean that Coy Visto will take place. Jamie Hamill-Smith as well, who's had a really underrated race today in the number 21, gaining a position. But this is what's happened to Haycox. He's been in the wars as well a couple of times, as well as the walls, and this is just pure and simple vintage what happens at Lodge Corner.
Yeah, he just loses traction. Might have even got a little piece of the grass. Definitely got a piece of a wall there on the exit. But yeah, like I say, that's the third or fourth time I think I've seen him off. So I hope he's not building up too many incident points there. Only a few minutes left to go. Hopefully he can keep it going to the end. And I know that car's green, but it certainly looks better on the track rather than trying to camouflage itself.
No, I certainly agree on that point. Just a reminder, ladies and gentlemen, that the final lap is determined by your overall race leader, Alex Millward. They are allowed to start the lap when 40 minutes has expired on the clock. 2 minutes 54 is on that clock right now. So that will be 3 laps to go by about 20 seconds in this race. 3 laps to figure it all out between them. And there's going to be a lot of focus here on all of these battles going on. And there you can see how quickly you have to get around. That, of course, is going to be crucial for the championship, because that is Yuko Leskala next up to catch, and that means not too far in the distance, it's going to be that battle for the race lead between Trengareid Lake and GTO.
Yeah, but that break that battle was kind of broken up a little bit. And by the way, I appreciate there's another GSRC commentator here who can do math. But Ove Trantre, 1.5 seconds and dropping back out of a hill as they climbed a hill there. You can see the interval was expanding, so Trantre might not have got a great run out of Knickerbook. And I think Philip Blake has got to be feeling somewhat comfortable. Obviously, if there is GTP traffic in the closing moments here, that could close things up. But right now, things looking good for that number 2 car.
Yeah, it certainly is. And you would say that for Philip Lake, despite the dramas, of course, halfway through the race, the spin, of course, with Joseph Mudrack, which was the 360 that kept him in for the podium race, could have been so much more. No dramas so far in this race for Alex Millward. And to quote a namesake in Aidan Millward, with the weird, wacky and wonderful races that go on throughout the world of racing and sim racing, this has been a case here for Alex Millward, where he has just done the utmost professional job out there. Trengareid is not going to let this one go easy in terms of letting Millward through. He knows he's still in a race. He knows he's got to keep as much pace as he possibly can. But resistance, of course, is futile as they make the run up to the Britain chicane here. This big left-hand, right-hand section as they go through this international layout. And he sees that gap open up a little bit, and will notice that it's just a bridge too far at the moment. He'll have one more lap to focus and figure it out. But really, Sam, you must say that these two leaders have been the classes of their fields.
Yeah, well, for the Alex Millward definitely in the GTP field, but Philip Blake, I'd say, you know, he definitely had a challenge from Lescala. Lescala kind of threw that one away a little bit, but now Millward is definitely on his final lap, and here we see the number 3 of Ove Trandre. This is one of a few battles really still left out there to see if Trandre could win this GTO race. I don't think he's going to be able to, but you never know in motor racing.
You never know indeed. It is the final lap of this race, and it has been one which for Ove Trengerade, he has played the patience card every single stage of the way. He knows that all he can do now is give his best lap that he can possibly do, but Philip Lake has been keeping him at an arm's reach all race long. It has been brilliant in GTO. They have been fighting at the front, those three, for the entirety of the 40 minutes that we have had available. So that is something that you can say that they have deserved over the course of this race, to bring it home to a grandstand as Lake continues to challenge as he goes on through. He knows that he's only got the final half of the lap to try and figure out, going through Knickerbrook for the final time. Your leader overall is now weaving his way. He feels confident heading to Lodge Corner, and why wouldn't he? It has been the consummate drive from Alex Millward here in GTP, and as he squirrels up the Deer Leap, he can put victory in the back pocket by a canter here around this wonderful track. In terms of second, well, they're going to come along right with your winners of GTO. Lake is going to take it with Youngbluth second in his category.
Yeah, no, that's obviously wraps up the story there in GTO. That's a massive victory championship-wise for Philip Lake, because here is Yuko Lascala, who could have been celebrating that win, but for the second race in a row makes an unforced, well, not an unforced error. He's still going to do some celebrating, or maybe he's just punishing those tyres because he's angry at them for spinning him out after the chicane. Who knows?
Well, we are going to step aside for just one moment here with the Global Sim Racing channel. When we come back, we're going to get the full fallout here from what has happened today at Oulton Park. We expected it to be hectic here on the Global Sim Racing channel when we came to this cathedral of a circuit in the form of Oulton Park, and my goodness, did it deliver for us today. Let's run through our results then from this fantastic race. That was the qualifying results that we saw overall, the gaps they had. This is the race results. Alex Millward picking up a fine 40-minute and 56-minute foray around this lakeside circuit with a margin of victory of 14.5 seconds over Fabian Youngbluth there in second position. Joseph Mudrak had a 360 in the middle of that race and still managed to pick up a podium. That is a story that he can savour for a very long time, as Javier Mosquera finished fourth, and the last finisher on the leading lap, credit to his driving, Mark Gamak there finishing off in fifth position. Jiri Wikström managed to get sixth position overall, a lap down, and struggling through the damage to get to seventh. That would be a great result for Togo Hisada, making it over to the end. A real shame with 4 laps to go. Finding contact with Donaghy was Laust Olsen. That pretty much the final nail in the coffin as far as championship implications managed. And then there are your top 2 in your GTO category. Philip Lake trumping by about a second and a half over Ove Trengarade, 11 through 20 with Sam.
Yeah, Yuko Lascala will be at the top of this sheet, but obviously not at the top of the GTO results overall, which he will be disappointed about. Nicholas Mukanos came home in 4th place. Didn't have a whole lot to say about him, just a nice quiet race from him. Ben Laughter worked his way up through the field to 5th. Likewise for Jamie Himmel-Smith. Didn't talk about him a whole lot, but he came home in a nice 6th, ahead of Hideki Kavisto and Franco Sturi in 8th place. Ian Haycox and Carlos Fonseca round out the top 10 in GTO, ahead of Mika Tupola and Fabio Sol. When we get to the next couple of pages here, Drake, we pretty much ran into drivers who ran into trouble throughout the race. One of those notable there being Reed Miller, who had a fast car but was involved in a 2-car collision right out of the gate.
Absolutely. Gianluca Gabbiani and Douglas Cloud both ran into troubles. We saw what happened with Devin Donaghy over the course of the races here today, and the likes of Robert Plumley in trouble as well. Andre Schumacher couldn't bring it too far forward here in this one. Alexander Darman we saw in the wall a number of times, and this goes all the way back to the 2 drivers who were in trouble on lap 1, Hinek Jarkel and Steve Tobin, both finding themselves in a world of hurt. But none such for your winner overall. Stood by with us right now, Alex Millward. Alex, you'd have to say that was the consummate professional drive. Built a gap early, managed to navigate your way through the traffic. You can't really ask for too much more for a 40-minute race in Kamel.
Yeah, that was fun. Sweating a lot, though. There was some crazy traffic out there, but for the most part, everyone did well. Laos was really fast, though, today, so I was expecting him to be on my toes for the whole portion, but yeah, I just managed to gap him in the traffic, I reckon.
Let's talk qualifying for a moment. 6 thousandths only the gap, and a lap that you had to manage to put together late on in the session. How important was it going to be to get a good qualifying, knowing that this track is very, very difficult to overtake on at the best of times?
Yeah, absolutely. You need the track position here. It's all about track position. I don't really see how anyone was going to be overtaking each other. It's going to be interesting to watch the race back to see if there were any overtakes in the Nissans, but where do you do it?
Where do you do it indeed is always going to be the question that gets asked overall. But for you, it is a case of an important victory for you, one that we don't often get to talk about, but one that you could say you managed to navigate with very much every element of ease out there overall. One final week in the championship next week. How are you feeling heading towards that?
Oh, I probably won't do it. This is just a rare one. I'm waiting for next season, really. Get back into 79 if I can, if time permits.
Well, it's always good to get your reps in, no matter which machine or series it do be. Before we let you go here, Alex, it's a big victory in terms of the way that you drove here today. Shout out sponsors and anyone you'd like to thank.
Yeah, just a big shout out to Nick McCarnas, who actually managed to finish a race today. Tough going, but yeah, well done, champ.
No worries at all there. Alex Millward coming over the line and getting a big victory overall. Sam Ryman then is going to be stood by with Philip Lake, who picked up the GTO victory.
Yeah, Phil, you dominated the first half of a race. It looked like you weren't going to win it, and then it kind of got handed to you on the silver plate there with another mistake out of Yuko.
Yeah, from my point of view, it looked like he may have been tapped by the GTP, but I'm not sure. The car does get quite loose through that chicane, so maybe he just picked up the throttle a little early and lost the rear. So, yeah, it was a good fight with him again, as always, and he was just starting to gap me. I was making a few little mistakes, so I don't know how it would have gone down if he'd stayed on the track, but it was a good race nonetheless.
Well, when he made that pass on you, he definitely put you in a position where you know, kind of had to yield. He made a clean and good pass to take a lead. I didn't know at that point if you were going to try to counterattack, or were you content to run second, knowing that you were still going to be holding a pretty good points lead?
Yeah, I came into the race thinking I just needed a third place, I think, and so I was just kind of thinking about that. But then when the race started and I got pole and then I was leading, and I was kind of thinking, well, maybe, you know, my desire to win the race kind of took over the safe game plan, I suppose.
How much pressure were you feeling from Ove Trandre in the final laps?
Yeah, he was. I think he managed the tires really well, so he had a little bit more left at the end there. I was pushing quite hard, but also, again, at that point, I was kind of thinking, like, I'd need to finish the race. So I had a few quite scary moments. So I just kind of...
Yeah. Can we talk about one of those? Joseph Madrak?
Yeah. I just spoke to him in the Discord briefly. I think he checked up for Yuko, and I wasn't expecting it, and I just plowed straight into the back of him. So it was totally my fault. And then I was amazed to see he was still behind me about 2 seconds later, so I don't know how he saved it, but it was a awesome job.
Yeah, caught us off guard too. Well, one race left to go, Phil. What are your thoughts heading into it, and anyone you'd like to thank before we let you go?
Le Mans coming up. Not a favourite track of mine. I love the 24, but I don't really like racing the track because it's kind of a draft fest, so I might do it, I might not. We'll see how it goes, but just a big thanks to you guys for covering the whole season, and all the guys in Kamel, the Day Tour guys, and Yuko for the great battles all season.
All right, well, congrats once again. We hope to see you at Le Mans, and things are looking good for you in the championship, so hopefully if you wrap that up, congrats on that too.
Thanks, Sam.
And that was Phil Lake, your GTO winner here today at Oulton Park.
Final chance to get a conversation. Fifth place in GTO was Ben Laughter joining with us right now. Ben, it is very much what it said on the back of your car. It says struggle buddy. It seemed like a struggle in qualifying, but a very hectic race to get yourself to that fifth position.
Yeah, I didn't mean for it to be that way. You know, I had top 5 qualifying pace. I just found the grass on both laps and just ended up starting 17th. But it makes it interesting when you get to fight from the back.
It certainly does. Let's talk about that interesting element over 40 minutes, because you've got the GTP traffic that comes through at a rate of knots at this very narrow circuit. You've got to make overtakes at a track where it's not necessarily the easiest place to get alongside and make it happen. How tough was it to get the Dirty Talk Sim Racing car through around this place today?
Well, I imagine that 5 of the positions came simply through attrition. It looked like there were a few multi-class issues that happened, especially in turn 3 there. So, you know, I can't claim any skill there, but I am pretty proud of some of the moves within my own class that happened. And, you know, I was racing around guys who are also very good and very compliant, and, you know, no one overforced the issue to where we were going to hurt each other, but just a really good group of guys to run around. And so when you find yourself working through slower traffic, this is a great series to do that. Most folks race you hard, but race you fairly.
Absolutely. And speaking of hard and fair circuits to go and race, it is the big track next week, the 24-hour Du Mans circuit overall. And that is surely going to be one where a trip through the French countryside is going to be difficult to manage. So let's talk about that as a circuit, which is in complete contrast to this one here at Oulton.
Well, the strategy is always to just get your Oran Park set up and throw that on the car and don't practice. No, I mean, it's obviously that track's all about positioning yourself and drafting and not being overly aggressive, because you can't break away once you do anyway. I'm with Phil on this. I don't love those types of tracks. I really like these undulating technical tracks a lot more in these cars. So yeah, I'll be there, but I don't love Le Mans in this series. It's a draft fest.
It certainly can be. It's not the first time we have echoed it. And some will also say, in terms of Australian tracks in iRacing, that they might get their Winton and their Sandown setups out in the not too distant future. But Ben, before we let you go, shout out sponsors, anyone you'd like to thank.
Well, I'll shout out my own company, strugglebuddy.com. And I'll shout out to Nick Mukanos for finishing on his wheels today instead of upside down. Now, when we get those Australian tracks, he'll be great because he'll get to finish upside down all the time.
Brilliant. Ben Laughter bringing all of the joys once again, a 5th place finish then here today at this wonderful Oulton Park circuit. So before we take ourselves then through the end, Sam, any final thoughts as we bring our proceedings to a close here today at Oulton Park?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a shame to see. I think both championships have already been decided heading into the series finale next week at Le Mans. But I think that will also mean that we'll be in for a very exciting race at Le Mans, because the championships won't be on the line anymore. Like a driver say, we'll see a bit of draft fest probably, which isn't always fun from a driver's perspective, but definitely makes things fun for the spectators, especially if there aren't any championships for the line, and we'll see everyone maybe even having a pack race for the win. It could be a very interesting finale.
Sometimes sim racing in its purest form is just go out there and win one race, and sometimes that creates the greatest races when they get there outright. A massive thanks, though, has to go to everyone who has been getting it done for us here today with the Global Sim Racing channel, and all of these people on screen have been a massive help to it. The companies here that have helped with the hardware and software for our broadcast, as well as June Lalonde. Her wonderful music has been a tune for many a year here with GSRC, and it is an absolute treat to bring her music onto this stage as well. Of course, the team here today has done a wonderful job. The camera's done by Dougie Beard, Joe Peake, Samuel Ryman, myself, Jake Sperry. Don't forget, 1 week from today, September 4th, is the time and is the place. That is our next round. And of course, we've got tomorrow the absolute beginners driving around from the Nürburgring. That is going to be a treat. The BRL Bootleg Racing League will be heading round 10 from Limeland. Make sure you check that out if you like to get all into that level of action. And of course, we've got the Bootleg Racing League's battle at Martinsville coming up, of course, later on tonight. 9 p.m. Eastern is the time and is the place of that. Grand Prix Legends as well, Road America. That is going to be another one definitely to keep in the back of the mind. They had some amazing racing earlier on today as well, and we are going to make sure that there is so much more to come along. They'll be cycling on your screen the longer that it all goes. Thank you very much for jumping on in and seeing some amazing sim racing action here with the Global Sim Racing channel. This is where it gets real. This is where it gets amazing. And of course, you've got to race hard, you've got to race clean, and we will see you on the track.